More than 3 months ago, House Majority Whip Steve Scalise miraculously survived an attempt to assassinate GOP lawmakers on a baseball field in Virginia. Today, he returned to the job for the first time since the shooting in a packed House chamber filled with joy. Then, the Louisiana congressman delivered an emotional address to his colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You have no idea how great this feels to be back here at work in the People's House. When I was laying out on that ball field, the first thing I did once I was down and I couldn't move anymore is I just started to pray. And I will tell you, it gave me an unbelievable sense of calm, knowing that at that point it was in God's hands. A lot of people ask, did this event change you? Yes, it changed me, but not in the ways you might think. It's only strengthened my faith in God, and it's really crystallized what shows up as the goodness in people. I got to see that goodness in people.
Scalise thanked the Capitol Hill officers who saved his life and countless of others that day in June. And then he had a personal message for all the lawmakers in that room.
When I come back into this chamber here today, it just seeing the faces of all of you, it just means more to me than you can imagine. So thanks for all of that love and support. We are the People's House. This is the place where these ideas are supposed to be debated. And we fight through those issues, but ultimately we come together on whatever the board shows as 218. If you can put the majority together, that's what rules the day. It's so important that as we're having those political battles, we don't make them personal. I am so honored to be back here in the House serving with you. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless the United States of America.
What a special moment. And a man who really just fought for his life. There were moments, there was very touch and go, where people really thought he wasn't going to make it. But he said through faith and prayer and the courageousness, Dana, of those officers putting their life on the line to be able to save him and the other lawmakers. Truly a powerful moment, I think, in a really impactful message to say, you know, respect our differences. We can debate, but ultimately we have this system of governance.
And incredible work also by the healthcare workers, the doctors and nurses, like the emergency room, but also the rehabilitation, because it really, our news cycles go so fast, it's hard to remember. This was actually only 2.5 months ago that this shooting took place. And of course, it was so traumatic. And remember when President Trump and the First Lady go to the hospital to visit, the question was he going to make it? And the injury could have severed an artery, and this story would not be as wonderful as it is today. So, yes, I think an amazing return, and you can see his colleagues all seem genuinely happy to have him back. And our own Lauren Fine, who used to work here as a producer, is now his press secretary for the Majority Whip, and has been working hard to make this moment happen. I thought it was flawless.
It was fantastic. So she did a wonderful job. It must have been her time here with us on the 5. Greg, powerful moment. And, you know, he brings up the message that, you know, the Capitol officers saved his life. And, you know, I have to tell you, thank God that they were armed and there to be able to protect the people.
Yeah, it's also amazing how strong he sounds after 2.5 months. You know, it points out a really strange, sad reason for him being alive was that the surgeons were able to save a gunshot victim because they're so good at it now. Yeah. I mean, they've got a lot of practice in D.C. and in other states working on gunshot victims. And it reminds you, the numbers of gunshot victims of murder victims could be much worse than they are now. But it's being covered by the fact that these surgeons are so good at saving lives. Imagine the numbers in Chicago or in D.C. So it's not a reduction really in homicides, but surgeons and technology reducing murder. So that's kind of amazing. To your point, our news cycle, this thing would have been a huge, huge deal for a year.
Yep.
But it's like, seems like it happened forever ago because we're so constantly churning through stories, you know? It's amazing.
It's unbelievable. So happy to see him, I bet, and his family, too. My goodness, so nice.
Yeah, it was a powerful moment. I'm not the most devout guy, but when he's talking about prayer, he's talking about people coming together, you just get the chills running up and down your spine. He wasn't supposed to survive. That was a gunshot wound in a part of the body that's not really supposed to sustain bullets like that, and he fought back. Now, Gabby Giffords also shot in the head, fought back, recovered bravely. We talked about on 9/11, the anniversary, the United Flight 93 people that stormed the cockpit. Or when you look at Harvey, people wrestling other Americans out of the water into safety. It's those moments where you really see the fighting American spirit. And it inspires people, and it inspires you to come together as a fellow American. But now these moments are so few and far between. You know, we were united after 9/11 for a while.
Yes.
And then Iraq tore us apart. The Scalise shooting, a couple months ago, we had that moment where we reflected about our rhetoric. That's gone, especially after Charlottesville. Then Harvey hit, and we looked at the Texas resilience. And then now, all of a sudden, we're talking about the divisiveness of the kneelers.
Right.
So people just need to recognize this country is much stronger when we're together and not divided.
All right. So the message of unity, one of healthy discussion and debate, that ultimately, at the end of the day, if you can put 218 up and the majority will rule, but, you know, we can respect each other in that debate process along the way.
Well, absolutely. I think I hope that's the message people take away from this, because I think we need more of it. And oftentimes it seems like, you know, division and anger rule the day. But what it comes down to is I think Americans do honor each other. And I loved it when Scalise, he did an interview with 60 Minutes, in which he talked about what the doctors did for him at MedStar Washington Hospital Center. And he said, in very humorous terms, they put Humpty Dumpty back together again, because he described all the damage in that pelvic area. And how, you know, in fact, he then later had an infection, and it just took a lot of work and a lot of time. So looking at him, knowing him, I can see he's lost weight. But, boy, I thought he looked much better than I would ever have guessed. I thought he was going to look like a shell. But, no, it looks like Steve Scalise is still in there, and his spirit's stronger than ever.
He's a good majority whip.
Yes,
in terms of his skills at being able to get lawmakers to be all on the same page, and the president's going to need that going into the tax reform debate.
And I hope they listen a little bit extra closely to him now at this point. Well, God bless him and his family, and as Dana said, the men and women that saved his life in the hospital, and the Capitol officers as well.